we'll come over to the cash budget, scroll back up to the top, and the very first part of the cash budget is the sales budget. And so we're going to build that out first. And this is going to kind of just be a bunch of hopping back and forth between our assumptions and our cash budget. I also happened to name these references, and so we can use named ranges to build out the formulas, and that might be easier if that's how you like to do things. So here in B6, I'm going to say equals, and then cell reference budgeting assumptions, because what we need to get is the budgeted unit sales. And so we'll come back over, we'll grab our budgeted sales for Q1, and you can see in my formula bar that now says sales Q1. The unfortunate part of naming ranges is that it doesn't allow us to drag the formula, but I'm just going to go in and change this to Q1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm manually typing that in. You could also, there's various other ways. You could just go back and cell reference each of them, or whatever you want to do. Then for the budgeted unit sales, we need a sum of all of these. So we'll say equals sum and select the total. And so for the whole year, we'll have unit sales of 100,000 units. The selling price, I did name this range as price. So in the cash budget, if you say equals price, and we have a named range here and press enter, we can fill that all the way to the right to F7. And this is because the selling price holds true no matter what part of the year. So we do not do a sum here. And there's certain places where we will sum across the row and other places that we won't. So it's important that you pay attention to when that is. The total sales is just the multiplication of the units. So B6 times the selling price in B7, press enter, and then fill this formula to the right as well. And that's Command Shift R. Oops. Sorry, just Command R to copyright. The next piece below this is the schedule of expected collections. So we're trying to figure out, of this $200,000, when will we collect it? How much of it will we collect in the first quarter versus how much will we collect in the second quarter? And so to start this out, we're going to look at the beginning accounts receivable. And that is because what was left on the accounts receivable, I'm going to go ahead and type equals and head to the beginning balance sheet. What was left here on the accounts receivable, this $90,000, that was left unpaid from Q4 of 2026 or 25. And so we expect to receive all of that in the first quarter of our new year. Then if we go back to the budgeting assumptions, we see from sales that we expect to collect 70% in the quarter of the sale. And you can see that I named this collection quarter of. And then we expect to receive 30% in the next quarter, the quarter after the sale. And this is collection quarter after. So in our budget, we need to figure out what total sales is times the collection of, and then next to that we'll do the previous quarter times the collection after. So here in B12, go ahead and say equals total Q1 sales times, and then if you start typing collection quarter of, we can fill that in. And then in quarter 2, we're going to collect the second half of this. And so we'll say equals Q1 sales, B8, times collection quarter after, and press enter. And so we see of the 200,000, 140 will be collected in Q1, the same quarter, and 60,000 of the 200,000 will be collected in quarter 2, the quarter after the sale. And now we just keep filling this down. It's going to end up kind of looking like a stair step. Copy this formula down instead of re-typing it out each time. We need to filter through the absolute cell referencing until we get to the one where the 8 is locked in. So row 8 is locked in, but the column is not, because as we move this, we want the column to shift over. So you would have B $8 collection quarter of, and then in C12 you would have B $8 collection quarter after. And now that we've locked those in, you can copy them, Command C, and then in C13, Command V, which will paste in that formula for Q2 and Q3, and then come down to D14, paste it, and then I'm going to now pick D14 and copy it, because this time we don't want it to go into the total, and I'll just paste it down below in E15. And so now you can see that kind of stair step that is recording the collection of how much we will collect in Q1 versus Q2 versus Q3 versus Q4. And then we need to do a sum here. It is really important that you sum all the way to the top, and that is for various reasons. For one, it's just best practice. It allows us to fill to the right, Command R. But it also is important because if we had a different scenario where instead of collecting over 2 quarters, so this is quarter of and quarter after, maybe we have a scenario where we're collecting over 3 quarters, and so this would actually be longer. And had we done a sum that only collected and accounted for the top 2 cells, then we would have to remember that we did that and come back and fix it, and you don't want to count on remembering that. So it's important to just set it up to account for all the scenarios the best you can from the beginning. In F11, we need to do another sum, and so this will sum across the row. And once you have that filled in, you can hold Shift and arrow down to select them, and then Command D to copy the formula down. And so now we have our sales budget, which will be the cornerstone to create all of the next sets of budgets.